If I had a nickel for every time Marvel dumped a series on streaming in the summer of 2025 that was produced by Ryan Coogler and surprisingly good, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right? Yeah, as you're watching this, Marvel Studios' newest animated series, Eyes of Wakanda, is out, and has been out for a few days. And is a series that exists, if this is the first time you're hearing about it, because they just decided not to market this for some reason. And it's actually pretty good. This show surprised me a lot. For those of you who have no idea what this series is supposed to be, Eyes of Wakanda follows the adventures of brave Wakandan warriors throughout history in a globe-trotting adventure where they must carry out dangerous missions to retrieve vibranium artifacts from the enemies of Wakanda. Basically, what you need to know is that this is an anthology series set throughout Wakanda's history as we get to see the war dogs, the country's central intelligence service, scattering across the globe to take back what's rightfully theirs. What results is a really fun series that expands the history of the MCU in some really exciting ways, all while enriching the already great lore of Wakanda. It's also only 4 episodes that are each 30 minutes long, which means it's really easy to watch in a single afternoon, so I would honestly recommend checking it out. It's nothing revolutionary outside of an insane reveal in the final episode that we'll get to later, but if you're looking for something short and sweet to watch, Eyes of Wakanda is the answer. What I really love to see from this show is the fact that it is a proper anthology series. Every episode takes place in a different setting, a different time period, with completely new characters in entirely standalone episodes. What that means is that you never know what you're going to get when you press play, and that even if one episode isn't as strong, another episode could just completely blow you away. There's definitely not enough anthology series in the superhero genre despite how much I think it leans itself towards them. The comic book medium is very episodic, and I think that an anthology series is able to carry that over in a really exciting way. This is exactly what I wanted to see out of a show like What If, as we get to explore these exciting premises, but they don't bring all these characters back at the end for some forced team up that doesn't make any sense at all, as they are entirely standalone and work within the narrative of the episode itself. And I think it's really fun to just get dropped into a completely new time period without any clue of what's going on, and just letting a series show you these new characters in this new setting, as we get to play around in a completely new sandbox than we're used to in the MCU, especially when it comes to a country like Wakanda, which has such a rich history to pull from. I think that the overall pitch for the show is such a great and inspired idea, as we get to watch Wakandas fight back against pillaging and colonialism as they get to take back what is rightfully theirs. It's almost like a revenge story in a way, as we get to see this format develop when new characters are put out into the world to make sure that they don't get to benefit from Wakanda's resources when they haven't earned it. And they also get to subvert that formula by the end in a completely shocking way. But this show thrives in its world building, especially in the grander scheme of the MCU as a whole. Believe it or not, Eyes of Wakanda is actually MCU canon. It's not like X-Men 97 or Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, where Marvel is just using the animation medium to tell Elseworld stories, as Eyes of Wakanda is directly set in the MCU and heavily influences events that we've seen play out in the live-action movies. Because of that, it also means that we get to visit time periods that no other project has even come close to touching on. Whether that be the 1200s, the 1800s, Ethiopia, or even the Trojan War, which completely caught me off guard, but has one of the best character dynamics in the entire show, as we even get to see a big Achilles heel moment that was built up surprisingly well. I think that they are making the most out of this anthology series, which I am very happy to see. This is honestly something I'd like to see a lot more of in the MCU. Give us more animated series that expand on what we've seen in the MCU before. Fill in the gaps that we're never going to get back around to. I feel like we're just scratching the surface on the anthology medium, and Eyes of Wakanda is a great proof of concept for what they can do with this kind of storytelling. Without a doubt though, the strongest part of this series is the animation. You should watch it just to see that alone. The art style is so gorgeous and easily the best in the entire MCU. I appreciate how Marvel isn't sticking to one uniform art style anymore, and we're seeing them take more risks as they're giving creatives more freedom to tell these stories with a dazzling art style that really enhances what we're seeing on screen, especially now that they're no longer chasing realism like they were in What If, as they're trying to recapture these actors' likenesses. Thanks to Eyes of Wakanda taking place throughout different periods of history with characters we've never seen before, they aren't trying to recreate anything and can just go crazy with these cartoonish, larger-than-life visuals, which I really love to see. It feels like they're taking full advantage of the animation medium and making sure to do things that we couldn't see in live action. Shots like this and character designs like that just simply could not work in a live action setting, and that is exactly what you want to see in an animated series. The hand-painted 3D art style makes it really stand out and gives it a unique aesthetic that you're not going to see anywhere else in the superhero genre. And with the amount of detail and beautiful colors they're able to get with that art style, it goes a long way to highlight Wakandan culture and showcase it in the most beautiful way they possibly could. I think we're able to see the animation at its best during the fight scenes as well, because the action in this show is really well well done. It flows in such a satisfying way as we're able to see some really interesting hand-to-hand combat, but I think it's best exemplified in my favorite episode of the series, by far, Lost and Found. The third episode focusing on Iron Fist. Yes, that's right, and Iron Fist is the main character of this episode. After years of Marvel ignoring the Iron Fist mythos, we get this reintroduction to the world of Kunlun, along with the debut of the hand-sworn enemy, the immortal Iron Fist. It's not the Danny Rand version from the Netflix series, as this takes place hundreds of years before he's even a concept, but the way they show their powers clearly seems to be inspired by that series, which gives me even more faith that it's canon, and means hopefully we're gonna see Finn Jones back in the role in Born Again one day. I will connect whatever delusional dots I can to try and figure out a way where that is the endgame. But this episode is a really great taste of what Marvel can do with the character, and will absolutely hold me over until then, because I love seeing the creative way Iron Fist fights in this show. Beautiful hand-to-hand combat that is only enhanced with the powers of the Iron Fist. It is the brightest spot in this series, and honestly feels like a test run from Marvel just to see what they're capable of doing with Iron Fist. I know it'll never happen with how Marvel is scaling back on shows, but I'd honestly love an entire Iron Fist anthology series that focuses on a different fist throughout history. It could be a great way to reintroduce Danny Rand to the MCU. We can follow up with Colleen Wing, maybe show us what someone like Orson Randall was up to, just fully diving deep into a character who is long overdue for the spotlight, and this show does a great job as a first step towards that. But here's the thing, my biggest complaint about Eyes of Wakanda is that this show is so short. It almost makes me miss the 6-episode events. Almost. There's nothing wrong with 30-minute episodes, but only 4 of them made it go by so fast and left me wanting more. Not just wanting to see more anthology stories, but also spending more time in each episode with these characters and these heist settings. Because of how little time they get, these concepts that realistically could be feature films are condensed down into 30 minutes. And because of that, the storytelling has to be simplified down a lot. Don't get me wrong, it's fun for sure, and I do think the narrative is engaging, but it's nothing revolutionary. The real draw to this show is the animation, action, and the world building. That's what's going to keep you coming back episode after episode after episode after episode, and then it's done because it's so short. The only time things do get groundbreaking though is in episode 4. Spoiler warning for Eyes of Wakanda from here on out, because I know most of you didn't watch this show. It's honestly worth it, but if you don't have time for that, they do the most insane retcon that caught me completely by surprise. I cannot believe they snuck this into an anthology series and then just dumped it out onto streaming. Let me try and set the scene for you just so I can show you how crazy this reveal is. 2 war dogs are sent on a mission to steal a vibranium axe back for Wakanda. Notice it's the same one that Killmonger stole in Black Panther. That's very important to remember. The mission goes off without a hitch and they're able to get the axe they needed. And it seems like all is well as they're on their way back to Wakanda before someone travels back in time to warn them that what they just did doomed the world. So immediately that sends us on a branch timeline. So this becomes a time travel show out of nowhere. Basically what happened is that those 2 war dogs stealing back the vibranium axe acts as the first domino in a chain reaction that leads to massive destruction across the globe in the future. The Horde, a group of insect-like aliens that operate on the opposite end of the spectrum to beings like the Celestials, destroying everything in their path to balance out the universe, invade Earth in the far future, and effectively decimate the planet. You got that? Because the Horde is a very big concept in the Eternals lore, which makes me very happy as one of 6 Eternals fans out there. But once they arrive, shit hits the fan so fast, as almost the entire world has to come together to fight these beings, but Wakanda decides not to get involved in the war as it goes against their code to involve themselves in the outside world. And because of that, the rest of the world falls and it leaves Wakanda on their own as the Horde invade. So they get the bright idea to send someone back in time to prevent this from ever happening in the first place. So if I could just lay this all out for you, without Killmonger there to steal that axe, he never meets T'Challa, and the events of the first Black Panther film never happen, which means T'Challa never learns just how important it is for Wakanda to open up their borders and resources to the outside world, and everyone is doomed because of it. But it's because of that change of heart T'Challa goes through due to Killmonger's actions that he integrates with the rest of humanity, and they're able to fight side by side with the rest of the world and defeat the Horde in the distant future. It is such a crazy retcon that reveals how important this random axe really is, and honestly enhances T'Challa's legacy as the Black Panther. It makes that battle between him and Killmonger feel that much more impactful, because if that never happens, I guess the world would have just died. Retcons can be really messy because if they're not handled correctly, an entire narrative can fall apart and it could make what came before feel worse. But I think this one enhances the story of the universe and makes T'Challa feel even more important in the grand scheme of the Marvel universe, which is honestly really sweet to see. I love that they're able to find new ways to creatively expand on his legacy and make him feel even more significant than he already was in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is such a shocking end to this show that nobody is going to find out about because Marvel just didn't market it. So I'm here to do my part and tell you to go watch it because I honestly think it's worth it. If I had to give it a star rating, because that's a thing I've decided to start doing now, it's a solid 3.5-star show. I would have liked to see more out of it, but it's very easy to digest and is breaking down animation barriers in the MCU. So I am more than happy to spread the word about it and make up for Marvel's $8 marketing budget. But why don't you let me know down below if you watched Eyes of Wakanda, because I'm genuinely interested to see how many people heard about this show. And especially let me know what you thought about that insane retcon they pulled. I would genuinely love to hear what everyone has to say and continue the conversation down below. And while you're at it, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you don't do it, I'm going to travel back in time and take that axe just to stab you with it, and that dooms the world. So just subscribe and save humanity.